My husband died in the sea in order to save the woman he loved. By the time they notified me, his body was almost eaten clean by the fish. The staff asked me if I wanted them to keep searching. I waved my hand decisively, refusing to waste public resources. With the certificate issued by the police, I immediately canceled his household registration. After contacting his lawyer, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. That night, I opened a bottle of champagne. Originally, I could only take half of the property, but now I could take 2/3. This definitely called for a celebration. My husband, Fernando, was dead. He took his crush, Isabella, on a ferry trip. They encountered strong waves, the ship hit a reef, and he gave his life jacket to Isabella. He drowned in the sea. When the police informed me, his body had been chewed so badly by sharks that his head was gone. A headless body floated on the water. A few fishermen wanted to pull him up, but another shark came, grabbed him, and swam away. So all they salvaged was Fernando's wallet and phone. As a highly visible entrepreneur in this city, Fernando's son attracted public concern, and everyone wanted to recover his body. The police asked me if I wanted to hire a rescue team to search. I waved my hand. No, absolutely no wasting of public resources. 1 hour later, with the police-issued certificate, I canceled his household registration. The staff saw his ID card and even shed 2 tears. Mr. Sun was a good man. Please accept my condolences, Mrs. Sun. I laughed out loud. She wasn't wrong. Fernando was indeed a good man. In fact, in a couple of days, he was going to divorce me and marry Isabella. Instead, he died, leaving me with a huge inheritance. With no corpse, I could only burn some of Fernando's old belongings as his ashes. So I burned the waste papers from his office and some of his personal items. After burning, I put the ashes into a plastic bag, planning to buy an urn the next day. I contacted the lawyer and began liquidating Fernando's assets. 6 companies, 8 cars, 77 shops, 88 apartments, plus the gold bars in the bank and his funds and stocks. While I was calculating how many zeros that added up to, the lawyer told me 2 of the properties had already been transferred to Miss Chan while Mr. Sun was alive. What? I would not allow anyone to ruin my lucky number. I turned to the lawyer. The things Fernando gave her, I should be able to take back, right? No wonder he earned millions a year, he understood immediately. That same day, Fernando's water-damaged phone was restored, and in the afternoon, my lawyer's letter was delivered to Isabella's home. When Isabella came over, I had just opened a bottle of champagne. She grabbed a glass and splashed it at me. Carmen, what's the meaning of this lawyer's letter? I sidestepped, and the liquid fell entirely onto the carpet. My Italian handmade carpet. I looked at Isabella with a pained expression. This counts as part of the damages too, you'll have to compensate me later. Where did you get the courage to ask me for these things? Fernando gave them to me. We were about to get married. These are all mine. Miss Chan, do you even understand the law? I sneered. The things Fernando gave you are part of the marital property. I have the right to demand them back. Isabella's face turned pale. She pulled out her phone. You didn't tell Fernando about this, did you? I'll call him right now. Just wait, he won't let you off. At that, I laughed. Don't bother. You won't get through. Fernando is inside a shark's stomach now. Isabella's eyebrows twisted together. Carmen, you're vicious. After all, you were husband and wife, do you really need to curse him like that? I waited for her to finish shouting, then pulled Fernando's ID card, cut in 2, out of my bag. What? You don't believe me? This is his ID. I just cut it this morning. Isabella stared at the 2 halves of the ID, stunned, still refusing to believe. You must be playing some trick. I'll call him right now. You're not getting a cent. She dialed a few numbers on her phone, and soon my bag started ringing. I took out Fernando's phone. On the screen, the word wife was flashing. Isabella's face instantly turned deathly pale. Why is his phone with you? I told you, he's dead. Where's the body then? Eaten by sharks. I spread my hands. Miss Chan, did you forget you 2 went on that cruise together? How come only you came back? I thought. Isabella crouched down, her whole body trembling. Her eyes turned red in an instant, and tears rolled down like pearls. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. That Italian handmade carpet, tears are dirty too, you know. Isabella cried for a while, then suddenly stood up and dashed toward the pillar in the living room. Fernando, I'll die with you. I was so shocked I stumbled backward a few steps and quickly dialed the phone. Hello, police? Someone is trying to commit suicide in my house. The police arrived quickly. After understanding the situation, they took Isabella away. Before she went out, I didn't forget to remind her. Remember to return my things. Otherwise, I'll sue you. One of the officers tilted his head at me, his eyes saying she's already like this and you're still provoking her. I shrugged. That was several million, we're talking serious money. Who wouldn't be anxious? The next day, I started planning a funeral for Fernando. After all, he had so many wealthy relatives, and over the past 2 years, I had given them money gifts at their occasions. Now it was time for payback. I notified a whole bunch of Fernando's relatives and invited a feng shui master to help pick a burial site. But I didn't like any of the so-called auspicious places the master showed me. I preferred one at the very edge. Barren, nothing grew there. The master said, no, if he's buried here, your husband's descendants will suffer hardship. I clapped my hands. Perfect. This is it. Such great feng shui, and it's cheap. Anyway, Fernando and I had no children, and there would be no descendants. After buying the burial plot and an urn, I hired a funeral company to hold a grand funeral for Fernando. At the funeral, I pretended to cry while secretly counting the cash gifts. As expected, they were all wealthy people. The red envelopes grew thicker and thicker, I nearly laughed out loud. Just as the funeral was about to end, Isabella arrived. She was dressed all in black, holding the hand of a 7- or 8-year-old boy, and walked straight toward Fernando's photo. The funeral, already silent, grew even quieter. All eyes and ears froze on them. Ariel. Isabella's voice was weak. Kneel down. This is your father. Just as the boy was about to kneel, I rushed over and pulled him up. Little one, you can't just randomly recognize a father. Isabella panicked. He's Fernando's and my son. Oh. I lowered my eyelids. If you say so. But I don't believe it. Who can prove it? We can prove it. 2 more people appeared at the door. It was my long-absent mother-in-law and father-in-law. Carmen, you shameless woman. My mother-in-law pounced on me as soon as she saw me. My son is dead, and you informed everyone except us. What's your intention? Of course, I wouldn't let her hit me. I stepped back, waved my hand, and my security immediately stopped her. I said calmly, Mother, weren't you the one who told me unless I die, never to contact you again? Seems she had forgotten. That year, she kicked me out of the house and spat those very words at me. You poisonous woman. My son must have been killed by you. You'll stoop to anything for money. You won't die a good death. My mother-in-law kept lunging toward me as if she wanted to scratch my face apart. Luckily, the bodyguards I hired were strong enough to hold her tight, not leaving a single gap. Mother, don't you know how Fernando died? He was with ISA. Ariel, come call Grandpa and Grandma. Isabella cut me off abruptly, dragging the boy forward. My mother-in-law immediately bent down and touched the boy's face. So this is the Sun family's grandson. He looks exactly like Fernando did as a child. Then she turned to Isabella. Isabella, you've truly suffered all these years, raising him alone. Watching this sentimental reunion made me nauseous. I kindly reminded her, Mother, you really believe everything she says? Who knows whose child this is? Hearing that, Isabella snapped. Carmen, are you saying this child isn't Fernando's? I'll tell you the truth, he is Fernando's. When we broke up, I was already pregnant. All these years, I've raised him by myself. My mother-in-law chimed in too. Just by looking, anyone can see this boy belongs to the Sun family. You wicked woman. You couldn't even bear a child, so you're jealous of others who can. Seeing my mother-in-law firmly on her side, Isabella grew bolder. She began to cry, lamenting how hard it had been to raise the child all these years, how much discrimination she had suffered as a single mother. "Oh, really?" I tore her lies apart mercilessly. "Funny, I heard you married someone abroad and got dumped for cheating." "Shut up." Isabella's eyes brimmed with tears as she turned to my mother-in-law. "I can endure anything myself, but it's too pitiful for a child to grow up without a father." My mother-in-law was moved by her words and hurled curses at me. "Carmen, you barren hen who can't lay eggs. You've never been a mother, you wouldn't understand." "I feel for Isabella," I said quietly. "Mother, even if this child really is Fernando's, there must be evidence. Otherwise, anyone could show up with a child and claim he's your grandson. Would you recognize them all?" "I have evidence." Isabella straightened her back. "At first, even Fernando didn't believe Ariel was his son, so we did a paternity test. That test is still in his office drawer. Mother, go check and you'll know." "Oh." She changed her tone already. Not just me, everyone present wore a rather intriguing expression. This funeral really was lively. Everyone had come for a good show. My mother-in-law immediately sent someone to fetch that paternity test from Fernando's office. I tried to stop her. "Mother, let's wait until the funeral is over. With so many people here, it'll be ugly if this blows up." She snorted coldly. "What's wrong, Carmen? Afraid that once the test comes out, this child will fight you for the inheritance? Let me tell you, one must be magnanimous. If I were in your position, I would acknowledge Ariel." No persuading her. Absolutely none. After Isabella gave the exact location of the document, someone quickly went to Fernando's company. I also took the chance to make a phone call. Less than half an hour later, that person returned. The moment Isabella saw him, she rushed forward. "Well? Did you get it?" He looked troubled. "No. How is that possible?" Isabella screamed. "Did you even search properly?" I turned the place upside down. "People in the company said. He glanced in my direction as he spoke. "Don't be afraid of her." My mother-in-law caught on. "What did the company people say?" "They said Madame had already burned everything." "Oh, blame me." I stepped forward. I was afraid of being reminded of Fernando, so I burned all his things. But I didn't see any paternity test inside. Isabella's face darkened. She lunged at me, trying to strike. "Carmen, you venomous woman. You did it on purpose. You don't want my son returning to the Sun family." Her madness was terrifying, and my bodyguards quickly stepped in front of me. "Isabella, don't act like a rabid dog. Even if I had seen that so-called paternity test, how could you prove it was real? You refused to salvage Fernando's corpse, how am I supposed to prove anything?" Isabella screamed. "Carmen, you're a schemer. You just want to monopolize Fernando's inheritance." My mother-in-law hadn't known that I was the one who stopped them from retrieving Fernando's body. Now, with Isabella's crying, everyone knew. Her face turned dark. "Why didn't you recover my son's body? You couldn't even give him a proper burial, and yet you think you deserve his inheritance? Because I'm his wife." I laughed. "Mother, why are you siding with an outsider? She's the mother of my grandson, she's no outsider. You're the outsider. You couldn't even lay an egg, and now you want to take my son's money. Return it all." "Mother." I stopped her ranting. "Do you know why I haven't had children all these years? Because you've done too many bad things and can't give birth." "You're right, I can't." I sneered. "But the one who can't have children wasn't me." "What do you mean?" My mother-in-law froze. "Don't tell me it was my son?" "Yes, it was Fernando who couldn't have children." I clapped my hands, and someone immediately handed me a file folder. "Family shame shouldn't be aired in public. I never intended to say this, but since you keep pushing me, I can only apologize to Fernando." Inside are his medical records from the past 10 years. 10 years ago, he was already infertile. So tell me, how could Isabella have had his child? My mother-in-law opened the folder, and papers spilled out. Isabella picked one up, read it over and over, and her face turned pale as she shook her head. "Impossible. This is fake. These documents bear the hospital's official seal. If you don't believe me, you can go verify them at the hospital." Isabella tried to grab my mother-in-law's hand, but she shook her off while still frowning at the reports. I pretended to shed a few tears, then turned to the relatives. Sorry to let you all witness such a scene. The funeral is over. Everyone can leave now. As they departed, each face shone with the excitement of having just eaten up some explosive gossip they couldn't wait to spread. I no longer cared about those 3 people. I put on my sunglasses and left. But only a few days later, I received a lawyer's letter from Isabella. It claimed that regarding Fernando's estate, Isabella's child should also receive a share, and she had already filed a lawsuit in court. Soon after, I received a notice of pre-trial mediation, requiring my attendance. When I saw it, I was furious. I called my lawyer directly to demand why my lawsuit against Isabella hadn't gone to court while hers had already gone into mediation. My lawyer explained for ages, but I didn't really understand. Something about 2 different systems and hers was simply processed first. Unhappily, I attended the pre-trial mediation. Isabella said, Ariel is Fernando's child. I said, Fernando was infertile. I have the medical reports. Your medical reports said his sperm activity was low, not absent. The doctor said conception was still possible. Isabella looked smug, even smiling at the corners of her eyes. Next time, you should read more carefully. Oh, so what? I yawned lazily. Do you have proof that this child is Fernando's? Of course I do. Isabella slapped a paper on the table. This is a paternity test between Ariel and his grandfather. It proves my son has a blood relationship with Fernando's father. Since Fernando's father only had one child, Fernando, then Ariel must be Fernando's son. I glanced at my lawyer, who kindly reminded her, that doesn't count. My mother-in-law slammed the table. Why doesn't it count? Carmen, you're too petty. This child is my son's flesh and blood. Of course he should inherit my son's wealth. So what if he's illegitimate? It's normal for men to have a few women outside. Besides, this child isn't just Fernando's, he's yours too. Having a child is such a blessing. I laughed. Mother, calm down. The court requires a direct paternity test. Do you know what paternity means? It means father and son. And, mother, don't you really know? Actually, father has another son. My mother-in-law froze, and I immediately took out a paternity test. I hadn't planned on saying this, but since you're siding with an outsider, I won't cover up for father-in-law anymore. This is a paternity report he once asked Fernando to arrange for another child of his. Then I produced photos and videos. These are pictures and videos of the boy. Right now, he and his mother, Sabrina, live in father-in-law's villa in the south of the city. Father-in-law goes there twice a week. They've got a house full of maids and bodyguards, and the chef is a national banquet-level master. I ate there once, TSK, the taste. The more I spoke, the darker my mother-in-law's face grew. I even reminded her. Mother-in-law, don't be petty. It's normal for men to have a few women outside. And this child isn't just your husband's, it's yours too. Isn't it wonderful to have a child? I returned her own words back at her word for word. My mother-in-law completely lost it, slammed the table, and stormed out. I couldn't stop laughing. I called after her back, leaving already? The mediation isn't even finished. With her gone, Isabella realized she was losing ground. She pinched her thigh hard, tears falling. Carmen, my dear sister. I know what Fernando and I did was wrong, and you have resentment. But you've seen it, Ariel looks exactly like Fernando. How could he not be his child? For the sake of the years you spent with Fernando, can't you leave something for his child? Her words were so pitiful. Everyone in the room looked a little moved. I finally understood why Fernando lost all reason when he saw her. That face was born to play the victim. But she'd chosen the wrong person. I sneered, repeating the same line, and how exactly do you prove that child is Fernando's? The mediation still ended successfully, because Isabella withdrew the lawsuit. Even if she hadn't, it wouldn't have mattered. Unless she dragged Fernando out of the sea, no power on earth could prove that boy was his. When I got home, I treated myself to a hot bath. Afterward, feeling refreshed, I called my aunt, who worked as a nanny in Fernando's father's house. She vividly recounted how after returning home, my mother-in-law had confronted my father-in-law, even fought with him, and vowed to make that mistress suffer. Seeing that the truth was out, my father-in-law dropped the act and told her straight, he wanted a divorce. That child was his only son now, and he planned to leave all his wealth to the mistress's boy. My mother-in-law threw a fit, crying, screaming, threatening to hang herself. Meanwhile, my father-in-law simply moved into Sabrina's place. Since my mother-in-law had always lorded over the house, the maids never liked her much. So as my aunt told me the story, she laughed loudly. Finally, she asked me, now that your father-in-law's cheating has been exposed, do you think he'll be left penniless after the divorce? I told her, watch fewer TV dramas. Cheating men never end up penniless after divorce. Even when Fernando divorced me, the fact that he decided to give me half his property was already because he had a conscience. I figured my mother-in-law would never divorce my father-in-law. After all, he'd never split half his assets with her. But to my surprise, she really did divorce him. Unfortunately for her, he had already transferred his assets, so she only got a single villa in the settlement. Unable to accept it, she stormed into his villa in the south of the city and beat up the mistress. The mistress immediately called the police. My mother-in-law spent a few days in detention and in the end, even lost that villa as compensation. Now she barely scrapes by on Fernando's inheritance. But Fernando's estate isn't enough to maintain her lavish lifestyle as a wealthy matron. I heard she's recently been looking for projects to invest in, trying to earn some retirement money herself. While I watched the drama unfold, my lawsuit against Isabella for the return of property finally went to court. There was no suspense in this case. Naturally, I won. However, even a month after the ruling, Isabella still hadn't returned my money and houses. Clearly, she didn't have enough people to move all those things. Out of the kindness of my heart, I rented a large truck, brought along a few young men, and knocked on her door. Isabella pressed against the door and refused to open it. "Carmen, this is unlawful entry." I sat down on a stool. "Don't throw around false accusations. This house has already been awarded to me by the court. Entering my own home isn't unlawful entry. You'd better come out, or I'll break down the door. If you dare break down the door, I'll call the police." "Great, go ahead. Call them. Let's see if the police make you leave or make me leave." Naturally, Isabella didn't dare call. If she did, she'd be the one forced out. While we were at a standoff, a black stretch Lincoln pulled up behind us. I turned my head. Wasn't that my father-in-law's car? Within a minute, he stepped out. Seeing the scene, he frowned and asked, "What's going on?" "Dad, she's trying to drive me away." With him there, Isabella finally opened the door. She stood by his side, tears in her eyes. "Please, stop this crazy woman." I tilted my head, staring at the two of them. What kind of bizarre scene was this? Why was Isabella so close to my father-in-law? My relationship with him had never been especially good, but it wasn't as bad as with my mother-in-law. Yet after hearing Isabella's words, he actually turned to me. "What's wrong with you? Why can't you stay quietly at home? Bullying a helpless widow and orphan, what kind of ability is that?" Before I could speak, Isabella cut in, "She wants to steal my house." I said, "How is this your house? The court already ruled. You're supposed to move out." The more my father-in-law listened, the more confused he became. Isabella, with tears and embellishments, retold the whole story. He grew angry. This was my son's house. He could give it to whomever he wanted. What right do you have to take it back? I used to think only my mother-in-law was unreasonable, but clearly, my father-in-law could be even more shameless. Luckily, I wasn't afraid of him in the slightest. I rolled my eyes. This house was bought after Fernando and I got married. It's part of our marital property. He gave it to her without my consent, so I can reclaim it. The court already ruled in my favor. What good does your disagreement do? Worst case, I'll just sue again. My father-in-law was taken aback by my bluntness. Isabella looked pitifully at him. "Dad, I don't have any money. If I give her back the money and the house, how will Ariel and I survive?" After a moment of thought, my father-in-law spread his hands at me. How much? I'll pay it for her. I was stunned. I pulled out the account statements from my bag. He flipped through them page by page until his face turned stormy. Carmen, you've gone mad with greed. You even listed a $1 bottle of water. I put on my own pitiful act. Even a fly is still meat. That money is all my hard-earned savings. After reading them, he tossed the papers to his secretary. Transfer the money to her later. I quickly thanked him. Thanks, Dad. Fernando is dead. Don't call me Dad. All right then, thanks, Uncle. He turned to Isabella. Move into my place today. Give this house back to her. Isabella wanted to protest, but he gave her a sharp look and in a commanding tone, declared, My place is far better than this. Ariel is my grandson. Even if the law doesn't recognize him, I do. His name will definitely be in my will. After a moment of thought, Isabella obediently vacated the house. She wasn't stupid, my father-in-law's wealth was several times Fernando's. Watching her happily load her things onto the truck, I kindly reminded her, Isabella, there's no such thing as a free lunch. I advise you to think carefully before moving in. Isabella's lips curled up in a triumphant smile. You're just bitter grapes. Fernando, no matter how rich, was only a rich second generation. How could he compare to his father? Too bad you don't have a child. Even if the old man dies, you won't get a cent of his fortune. When Isabella finished moving everything out, she generously invited me to inspect the house. I sat on the sofa without moving and suddenly asked her. Isabella, before you went abroad, you already knew you were pregnant, didn't you? Fernando's family adored you, and the two of you were so in love, so why did you separate? I remembered when Isabella had first returned to the country. Fernando hadn't slept all night, tossing and turning in bed, glued to his phone, terrified of missing a message. Something in my words struck a raw nerve in Isabella. Her smile vanished, replaced by unease. That has nothing to do with you. Fernando is dead. Why are you digging into this? I smiled. No reason. I just think you'll end up coming back to beg me. Isabella let out two sharp laughs as if I'd told a joke. Who will beg whom, we'll just have to see. Half a year later, Isabella really came. She knelt before me, screaming hoarsely. Carmen, please save my son. Only you can save him. She crawled toward me, clutching the hem of my pants. Fernando's father wants to kill him. He's locked him up. I have no other way, please help me. I sipped my tea and asked calmly, what happened? It turned out that my father-in-law's current child had fallen ill and needed a kidney transplant. My father-in-law wasn't a match, but Isabella's son was. That was why he had brought her into his villa in the first place. At first, Isabella thought she had gained favor through her child. But little by little, things slipped out of her control. Her boy would mysteriously show up with injuries. Random objects would fall from above when they walked on the street. Until Isabella learned about the transplant, she finally understood the abnormal incidents of the past weeks. She had wanted to take the child away, but my father-in-law caught on. He had his bodyguard stop the boy and threw Isabella out of the house. Then you shouldn't be begging me, you should call the police. I offered her the advice sincerely. I did. It was useless. Through her sobs, Isabella explained that whenever the police came, my father-in-law would act perfectly polite, even letting her take the boy away. But her son, spoiled by his grandfather, refused to leave, knowing life outside wouldn't be so comfortable. So I had no choice but to come to you. Isabella wept, snot and tears running together. Please, help us. After all, Ariel is Fernando's own flesh and blood. Why should I help? He's your and Fernando's child, not mine and Fernando's. I acted detached, indifferent. Isabella, desperate, blurted out, because Fernando loved you. She told me that Fernando had always loved me. That his divorce from me and disgusting affair with her were all because he had been diagnosed with a terminal illness. Fernando didn't have much time left. He didn't want to drag you down. She poured out Fernando's supposed love for me. I listened without much expression. I knew he loved me. I also knew he was dying. How could he not be sick, drinking and clubbing every night, relying on medication to keep his body going? And if he stopped taking the pills, of course he'd die. I had always been the one to collect his medical reports. I knew his condition better than he did. So what? I sneered. That means I should save your son? Isabella hadn't expected me to be this cold. She realized belatedly, you never loved Fernando. Not just that. I hated him. Isabella's face was filled with despair. She had no one else to turn to. She had tried my mother-in-law, but the woman had lost all her remaining savings in a failed investment. Now, desperate for money, she was groveling before my father-in-law every day. There was no way she'd defy him to help Isabella. Ariel, what do we do? Mama can't save you. Isabella beat her chest in grief. I watched her lose control for a while, then asked, Isabella, do you remember I once asked why you and Fernando split up? Her tears stopped. If you tell me the truth, I might consider saving your son. She bit her lip, hesitated for several minutes, then finally decided. Because that year, Fernando killed someone in a car accident. That night, he had taken Isabella to the mountains to look at the stars. On the way back, in heavy rain, Fernando struck and killed someone. The woman's body lay on the road, bloody and broken. But Fernando was terrifyingly calm. He first drove Isabella home before going back to deal with it. Isabella thought he would go to prison for it, so within a few days she broke up with him. With her family's help, she left the country. Abroad, she lived poorly. When she returned and discovered Fernando hadn't gone to jail but had grown even richer, she shamelessly latched onto him again. As I listened, my hands trembled, though my voice was low and terrifying. Do you know how he dealt with the body afterward? I asked Fernando. He said he paid the family a large sum of money and that it was all settled. Bullshit. I smashed the cup in my hand onto the ground, shards of glass scattering everywhere. Isabella looked at me in shock, and in that instant, it was as if she understood something. Isabella, do me a favor. I'll get your son out. How about it? She stepped back when she saw the darkness on my face, but finally, she nodded. 2 days later, Isabella went to the police and reported Fernando for a past hit and run. The police opened a case, but since Fernando was already dead, and no report had been filed back then, they didn't know how to proceed. That very night, a heavy rainstorm hit. From the mountainside of Yantua Mountain, a heap of white bones was washed out. The police confirmed that the remains belonged to a rural woman named Nova, who had been reported missing by her family 8 years ago. And those bones were only part of her body. Given the seriousness of the case, the city formed a special investigation team. Soon, someone else came forward at the station, claiming that on a rainy day 8 years earlier, they had seen a car hit someone on Yantua Mountain and then drive away. Despite the heavy rain, they had written down the license plate. The police traced the number. The car had belonged to none other than the city's celebrated entrepreneur, Fernando. 2 weeks later, Fernando's parents were arrested. They had helped their son cover up the hit and run and cruelly disposed of the victims' remains, scattering them across the mountains, the river, and a trash heap. Only the remains in the mountains had survived the passage of time. At last, the truth was revealed. 2 days later, I went to the station to collect Nova's ashes. Holding the urn in my arms, I wept uncontrollably. Just then, another woman arrived. Dressed all in black, she sat down beside me. She reached out and touched the urn, tears streaming down her face. Mother, your daughters have avenged you. I looked at Sabrina's face, my lips trembling, and whispered, Sister. Sabrina pulled me into her arms, stroking my back. It's all over now. Nova was my mother. That year, my father was burning with fever. It was pouring rain. My mother went out to find a doctor. And the moment she stepped out the door, she never came back. My father, without timely treatment, died in the hospital. In an instant, my whole world collapsed. After burying father, my sister and I searched everywhere for our mother. Eventually, we heard rumors that a luxury car had struck her. But when we asked, the witness claimed he had been mistaken, that maybe it hadn't happened. I knew he was just afraid of trouble. So, through some legal channels, my sister discovered the car's license plate number. We traced and traced, until we found it pointed to Fernando. From the very beginning, my marriage to Fernando had been for one reason: to uncover the truth about my mother's death. That's why I never cared what kind of man he was, nor what he did with other women. After lying low for 2 years, I finally pieced together the truth about my mother's whereabouts from Fernando's sleep-talking. I wanted to accuse him, but I had no evidence. So my sister began to get close to Fernando's father. Fernando deserved his death. Even if he hadn't drowned at sea, his illness would have killed him sooner or later. And if not illness, then prison, because I would have made sure of it. In the end, the Sun couple was sentenced to death. The remaining Sun family fortune was inherited entirely by my sister's child. But my sister's child never found a suitable kidney donor and died the following spring. After hearing this news, Isabella, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, jumped out again. She waived that old paternity test, insisting her child was related to the Sun family and demanding a share of the estate. Unfortunately for her, my sister was not me. Competing with her for inheritance required strength. And my sister was not so indulgent. She only said one sentence, and Isabella, that madwoman, immediately quieted down. "You really think your son's injuries back then were done by old Sun? I heard he just got settled into elementary school. Want me to stir up some trouble for him?" Isabella's face went pale. "This is a law-abiding society. What do you plan to do?" "Nothing much. Just enough to disgust you. Bullying a child. That's nothing to be proud of." "Fine then, I'll bully you instead." My sister spread out her hands. "You're not as rich as me. Ruining your family financially would be easy." Now living and eating at her parents' house, Isabella's face turned ashen at those words. No matter how unwilling she was, she had no choice but to retreat. But I'm someone who holds grudges. So I contacted Isabella's ex-husband abroad. Her divorce hadn't been due to infidelity, but because her ex-husband gambled away all her money. I accidentally let slip to him that Isabella was living with her wealthy family. The very next day, her ex-husband returned to the country. I didn't hear much of what happened afterward, only that Isabella and her ex-husband were both kicked out of her family's house. On Ancestors' Day, my sister and I went up the mountain to honor our parents. We buried them together in one grave, fulfilling Father's last wish. That day, the weather was beautiful, with no rain. After we finished bowing, a breeze drifted past. It carried a faint scent of wheat, the very fragrance of my mother. I thought, perhaps Father had brought our lost mother back to visit us.